All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, and we are here at a special called session of the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission to consider an appeal of an Historic Preservation Commission decision. And we're going to begin with a roll call from the clerk.
Davenport. Link.
Here.
Taylor. Wright.
Present.
Fisher.
Here.
Poole.
Here.
Culpepper.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton. Hamby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, as noted, we are here to consider a decision regarding a certificate of appropriateness, number 2024-07-1471 for 763 North Pope Street. And we begin with public input. I believe we have three residents who are going to share the 10-minute opportunity. And so if you all want to just come up together, that would be lovely. And there's a light in front of the clerk, and it will turn green when you begin speaking, yellow when 30 seconds remains, and then red when the 10 minutes has expired. And I'll thank everybody for being here.
Ready?
Good evening. You can begin and just introduce yourself for the record.
Will do. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I thank you all for your time today. My name is Mike Mills. I moved to Athens, Georgia on January 3rd, 1979. A very happy day in my life. And I bought the house at 763 North Pope Street in 1986 because I had long admired the house itself, the Boulevard neighborhood, and had indeed fallen in love with Athens and was excited to make it my home, and I still am. I and my fellow bandmates have long been enthusiastic supporters of the HPC and its mission. I have happily endeavored to maintain the historic appearance of my home, and my associates and I have worked closely with the Historical Society to preserve the character of Athens itself. To this point, I would like to say how happy I am that there are options for us moving forward that do not include the phrase abuse of discretion, as that feels unnecessarily adversarial when I think we are all really looking to achieve the same goals. These goals are threefold and consistent with the guidelines: to increase livability for ourselves and future residents of the home by adding natural light with glazing to a rear gable, to be consistent by mirroring existing previously approved changes to the back of the home, and to minimize changes to the original structure. To that end, we would like to maintain the original footprint and roof line rather than making the more radical change of an addition. Thank you again for your time. I turn it over to my wife, Jasmine.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Mayor and Commission. My name's Jasmine Paul. I live at 763 North Pope Street, and as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not a native Athenian. I moved into the house permanently in 2020 from Vancouver, British Columbia, but I have been visiting in a part of the Pope Street community since 2002. I want to echo what Mike says about how much we stand with the mission of the HPC. We feel really privileged to live in a beautiful historic district like Boulevard, and we love our old house. We specifically chose our builder, Andrew Malik, whom you'll hear from in a minute, because he respects and knows how to treat historic construction. I'd like to start today by grounding us in some language from the Historic Preservation Commission guidelines. The guidelines, quote, invite us to think of a former resident from many decades ago, returning to the area and recognizing the property, not because it has been without changes, but because the gradual changes over time respected the character, allowing it to remain evident. Our plan absolutely meets this brief. Our home is a folk Victorian, and among other historic elements, my husband has lovingly maintained the characteristic gingerbread woodwork since he bought the house in 1986. And it is details like that that our imagined former resident will continue to experience as they walk down Pope Street. Another quote from the guidelines is, it is the intention of historic designation to preserve and protect that historic character for generations while allowing the protected properties to continue their useful functions and evolution. That word evolution is so significant here. The guidelines do allow for changes based on livability. We know things about the impact of natural light on human health that we just didn't know when these homes were built. And in fact, the guidelines speak to options for adding natural light on the secondary plane in the roof section 2A9. In 2A9, it says, their use should be limited to secondary facades that are less visible from the streets. This language clearly indicates a spirit in the guidelines of reserving the most stringent protections for what is visible from the street. On Pope Street, there are multiple examples of natural light strategies on secondary planes, and one example of glazing added to a gable. And those were good decisions. They allowed for these homes to remain relevant and vital and livable while maintaining Boulevard's distinct character. Now I'm going to speak specifically to the impact of proposed glazing on our project. The gable is protected from public view. It is only visible from our backyard. There will be no change to the height, to the roof line, to the secondary facade, to the back plane, or to the bulk plane. An addition, which the HPC indicated would likely to be approved, would destroy more original construction, and we just don't want to do that. This solution elegantly balances the evolution the guidelines allow for with the preservation of Boulevard's historic character. And we ask you today to adjust our certificate of appropriateness to allow it. Thank you. And now I'd like to turn the floor to Andrew Malik of Timberline Construction.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission, for your time tonight. My name is Andrew Malik with Timberline Construction. I'm the contractor for the project and originally proposed the alterations to the HPC. I have worked on old homes in historic districts around Athens ever since my first experience working in construction in 2001. I've worked with the HPC on approved alterations here on countless different occasions, and I have a great working relationship with both Amber and Bruce. My appreciation for the character of historic buildings runs deep. I'm a longtime supporter of historic Athens, and I certainly share and appreciate the mission of preservation that the HPC is charged with. As a general contractor, I've sat through many HPC meetings and watched the Commission struggle through a wide range of difficult decisions. I don't envy the position they are in to balance the preservation of the cultural heritage of our oldest structures while also allowing for their owners to update and modernize their homes as needed. It's not an easy task. The HPC guidelines state that while those serving on the HPC have their own views of attractive aesthetics, their role in design review is limited to the ideals of historic preservation. I think anyone that has observed the HPC review process can attest this can be a really difficult line to navigate. In the consideration of this project during our first conceptual review with the Commission, we heard concerns about minimizing the amount of historic material that would be removed or altered for the proposed change. Mike and Jasmine have worked diligently with their designers to work within the existing footprint of their home and utilize existing window locations to accomplish just that. And yet the approved proposal not only removes more material than would be with the gable glazing, but it also alters the window locations on the side facade of the house, which is partially visible from the road. In this circumstance, where conscious effort was made to come up with a design within very difficult constraints rather than altering the home far more significantly with an addition, it feels like their efforts towards preservation are being punished rather than supported. As a professional in the construction industry with over 20 years of experience in preservation, it is my opinion that the best opportunity to bring more light into Jasmine and Mike's home while preserving as much historic material and form as possible is to approve the use of gable glazing in the existing rear facade. This would not only be consistent with the previous HPC-approved glazing in the adjacent gable, but it also best upholds the ideals of historic preservation that the HPC is charged with. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Andrew, Jasmine, and Mike. All right, so everybody has in your packet the minutes from the HPC meeting, including the vote. You also have the HPC guidelines as part of your packet. Certainly, if any commissioner has questions of staff or attorney, we are here to answer those. But similarly, if anybody's ready to place a motion on the floor, we have that opportunity now as well. So, Commissioner Link?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the appeal. I don't believe the HPC abused their discretion, but I think this is another example of a lack of clarity in the guidelines and a need to kind of update them for pragmatic purposes and contemporary living. I mean, this project does not affect the mass or even the footprint of the original home. And at one point there was another addition put on that uses that gable glazing. These folk Victorian homes are characterized by their symmetry, or at least this particular design, this double gable design is characterized by that symmetry. And, I feel like this proposed design simply replicates that symmetry in a contemporary manner.
Commissioner Lake, you may have some more remarks, and I want to provide time for those, but is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All right, and I have a second from Commissioner
Yeah,
Wright.
I mean, I went and looked at the property. I mean, projects like this where there's no footprint change, no massing change, it's not visible from anywhere else. You know, over and over again, the HPC does approve quite massive additions that can be seen from the street front and do kind of overwhelm the original footprint. This is not one of those. And I really, you know, again, I'll advocate for revisiting these guidelines. I hope that in our budget talks in the spring, you know, we can fit some funding in to have that done. You know, particularly as we bring in more historic districts, especially commercial districts, and as our community changes and you know, we accommodate more density, I feel like we really need to update these guidelines.
Commissioner Wright, further remarks?
I'm ready to vote.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, I did want to just check with the motioner, because having read this memo that we have, I was just wanting to clarify if you were approving and modifying the determination of the HBC upon finding the HBC did not abuse its discretion, or just simply approving.
Yeah, I don't believe they abuse their discretion. I think this is, you know, a lack of clarity in the guidelines that they were following.
So you're modifying that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that clarity.
Okay.
Any further questions, either the attorney or staff generally? All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Wright. I have a second from Commissioner Fisher. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, all opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries, and we are adjourned until 5 p.m. When our additional special called session will commence. Thanks, everyone.